Hi, in today's video, we're going to be talking about how to create your very own documentary. Whether you're just starting out or you actually have a story that you want to tell, I'll be taking you through this entire step from start to finish. Now let's begin. The first thing you need to do is decide on the topic and style of documentary you're going to create. Now you need to figure out the topic because you need to find something that's compelling and that will grab a lot of attention. The next thing you want to do is figure out the style in which the documentary is going to be. There's a lot of different styles of documentaries, but let's look at the three popular ones. There's expository documentary. Now this documentary is where you have a director guiding you throughout the whole entire process. So think of nature documentaries. This is the best example of what this is. The next type of documentary is observational documentary, right? In this style, you're basically a fly on the wall and you're just observing what's happening and you don't have any influence whatsoever, right? You're just making sure you're capturing all the moments, all the real moments. That's all you're doing. Now, the next type of documentary is participatory documentary. Now, this is my favorite. In this type of documentary is where you're playing an active role in this. You are actually interviewing people, you are asking questions, and you're basically guiding the story as it all unravels. The second thing you need to know is know your audience. Before you start, you need to ask yourself, who's going to be watching this documentary? Because this will kind of dictate how you're going to structure the documentary. So take, for example, if you were to create a documentary about global warming and your target audience are the youth, you want to make sure that you're focusing more on the future implication that's going to happen in this documentary, right? But then if your target audience was professionals, skilled professionals, in this particular case, what you need to focus more on is data-driven facts embedded in your documentary. So that's how knowing who the target audience is going to be changes the structure or the way in which you tell the story. The next thing you need to think about is your pre-production. Now, this is where the magic begins, right? So here's what you need to focus on. You need to first research your topic. You need to watch other documentaries in that particular topic and see what they're doing, what works and what doesn't work, what you like and what you don't like. Use them as inspiration for your documentaries, right? You need to also do some detailed research. Go get the facts, the details, gather all of that to help you structure a really good documentary. The next thing you want to do is identify the key people of influence in that particular topic. Now, once you figure out who the key people of influence are, you're going to have to do a preliminary interview and interview them, because this is where you're going to shape the direction of where the story is going to head. You basically created a narrative, right? Now, once all of that is figured out, you need to now start creating a story. Now, you're asking yourself, how do you create a compelling story? Well, there are different ways in which you can tell a compelling story. So let's look at one of the best tried and true way that works every single time. It's the 3-arc storytelling format, right? The first arc of this is basically making the audience care. Just think of it this way. You're just trying to answer the question, why should I care about this character? Why should I fall in love with this character? Why should I care about this thing you're showing me right now? That's the question you're hoping to answer. The next thing you want to do, the next thing in the arc is creating a seemingly impossible challenge. A challenge that it seems that they cannot overcome, the character can't overcome, right? That's what's the middle, and that's where the peak is, right? And once you get there, you start descending down. And what you're descending down towards is your resolution. And the resolution aspect is you want to show that they overcame the challenge or they didn't overcome the challenge. That's basically a story arc, and that's how you tell a compelling story. So once you have this structure, you don't necessarily need a script per se. It depends on what style of documentary you're creating, but you still need some kind of flow to this. So what you could do is do interviews, create interview questions to guide the story. The next thing you need to do is assemble your team and begin to plan to shoot. Now, you need to figure out who's going to be your team, who's going to be your camera guy, who's going to be your sound guy, who's going to be your editor. You want to make sure you figured out all of this in advance. Once you figure that out, you want to figure out the equipment you're going to be using. Remember, storytelling isn't just about the script or the characters. It's also about the visual story you're telling. And you want to make sure whatever you're creating visually enhances the story and doesn't deter from it. Now, production, time to shoot. The fun part of this, right? You need to scout your locations way in advance. You need to go in and see if the location fits for the narrative in which you're trying to create, or if it doesn't. So scout your location definitely ahead of time, and make sure you scout using your camera. Don't just go in there, just eyeball it. Put a camera in there, see how it looks in camera, then take it home, ponder upon it, and then see if it works, right? So now that you're ready to shoot, you want to make sure that you don't miss anything important. So when you plan out your interviews and when you plan your B-rolls, remember there's no such thing as enough B-rolls. You never have enough B-rolls. So record as much B-rolls as you can, because B-rolls enhance the feel of what you're creating. It makes it visually more appealing when there are breaks in it, rather than having somebody talking for an extended period of time without any breaks or any change. Next is post-production, where you're putting it all together. You want to make sure that you've properly organized your footage. Now, here's what I recommend. After every day of shooting, go there, take 5-10 minutes to go in, label every single file, and put them in proper folders. Because the last thing you want is wait until the day where you're editing and then you can't find this audio. You don't know where this audio is. Is this the same file? Is this that wrong file? Did I mix them? Did I delete it? You really don't want that mess. So it's 5 to 10 minutes. Just sit down every shoot, properly label every single file. Now you just have to work on creating a rough cut. People have different editing styles. So here's how I edit. Typically, if we're creating a documentary, I would take all my interviews and edit them separately in a separate timeline. I'll take all my B-rolls, edit my B-rolls separately on a different timeline. I'll take my voiceovers, edit them separately for what I want to create. Take my music, I organize my music separately on a different timeline. And then after that, then I start to bring everything together and I create a first rough cut, a really long rough cut. And it's from this rough cut that I begin to chip away, just like a wood carver is carving out all the excess fats till you get the figurine that you particularly want. So that's how I edit, and that's my style. You need to figure out your budgeting, see how much all of this will need to cost. Remember, you don't need a big budget. You can start something very small. After that, you need to figure out your distribution and marketing for this particular documentary, what you're going to do afterwards with it. Put it on YouTube or submit to film festivals. You want to make sure you're planning for all of this in advance. And if you need to create some specific assets like social media assets, trailers, and all of that, you need to figure all of that out in advance. This second part of the video, I'm going to answer 10 crucial questions that many aspiring documentarians ask, covering topics from like finding the right story, structuring your film, choosing equipment, and so much more. So grab a notepad, let's go into it. So the most frequent question, which is the first question here we're going to be addressed, is how do I choose the right topic for my documentary? Choosing the topic is the very first and perhaps the most exciting step. So you ask yourself, like, what stories am I passionate about? What message do I want to share with the world? And most importantly, is the topic relevant and engaging to others? A strong documentary topic isn't just interesting on paper. It has depth, real-world impact, and emotional weight. I recommend starting with a little soul searching. Think about the stories that have moved you, those untold tales that deserve a voice. Like, do you have, you want to do some research into trending issues or subjects that are basically overlooked in the community? You look for topics where you have access to the people or location that will bring your story to life. Remember, a documentary is your chance to connect deeply with your audience. It should not only educate, but also evoke empathy and inspire change. Question number 2 that's frequently asked is, what's the difference between a documentary and other types of videos? Now, let's talk about authenticity. Unlike scripted films or commercial videos that you might rely heavily on the actors or stage scenarios, documentaries focus on real events, like real people and genuine stories. Like, this is where documentaries set themselves apart. In documentaries, every shot, every interview, and every archival clip is part of a larger narrative, like that reveals the truth about our world. You often see interviews, like observational footage and historical materials woven together to create a compelling, sometimes raw narrative. There's a responsibility here. Like, you are not just entertaining, like you are informing and sometimes even challenging your viewer's perception. Think of documentaries like a window into someone else's world. A chance for your audience to see, hear, and feel
experiences that might be very different from their own. And that's a very powerful thing. Question number three that the more frequently asked is, how do I structure documentaries? So, a well structured documentary is like a great story. It has a beginning, middle, and end. Most documentaries naturally follow this three-act structure. And here's how you can think about it. Act one, this is your introduction. Start by presenting your subject in a way that immediately hooks your audience. You want to make viewers care from the get-go. You know, introduce your characters, set the scene, hint at the deeper story that will unfold later. Then your act two. Now it's time where you delve deeper. This is where you lay out the conflict, the challenges, or the mystery at the heart of your film. You know, it's the middle of your narrative where you explore different perspectives and build tension. This part is crucial because it keeps your audience engaged, wondering how it will all resolve. Now, Act 3, finally, now this is where you reach a resolution. Whether you offer a clear conclusion, show the impact of your subject, or leave some questions unanswered or provoke thought, the end should feel very satisfying and complete. It's the part where you leave your audience with something memorable to ponder on. Now, the fourth question that people typically get asked is, what kind of equipment do I need to start? Now, one of the biggest myths in filmmaking in general is that you need the most expensive equipment to tell a great story. The truth, it's all about how you use what you have, honestly. So let's break it down. So let's look at first of all a camera. Whether you're using a DSLR camera, like a mirrorless camera, or even a smartphone with a good lens, what matters most is your eye for a shot. Like, focus on the framing, the composition, and don't worry too much about having the latest model. Next is the microphone. Clear audio is absolutely essential. Like, you could consider getting a shotgun mic for directional sound, or a lavalier mic for interviews, or even a simple setup can work wonders if you take care of your audio quality, meaning you're editing the audio afterwards, playing out the noise. If you take it very seriously, honestly, it can change wonders. And having a terrible audio is honestly the last thing you want, because you can get away with bad footage, but bad audio is not something you want to try. Now, a tripod or a stabilizer. Steady shots can make your film look very professional and help your audience stay immersed in the story. A basic tripod or even a handheld stabilizer can make a big difference. Lighting. Natural light can be your best friend. But if you're shooting indoors or at night, a portable LED panel, like it's a great investment. Good lighting sets the mood and can dramatically improve the visual quality of your footage. And trust me when I say this, even if you have a bad camera, as long as you have great lighting to go with it, or you could do wonders. You could shoot amazing footage, and the quality will be actually incredible. Question number 5 is, how do I get natural and authentic interviews? Now, this is something that I struggled with at the very beginning, but I ended up coming with my own ways of doing things. The first thing I'll tell you is, you must build trust. So before you even hit record, you need to spend time getting to know the subjects. Let them know who you are, why you're interested in their story, and how important their perspective is to your film. Now, what I do for my own documentaries is, I set up preliminary interviews. I want to touch base with my subjects way before the day of shooting. I want them to reenact what they're going to say on production day during the preliminary interviews. I want to tell them about myself. I want us to become friends before the day of the shoot, so that the day we're shooting, it's almost like old friends catching up. Now we can banter, we can make jokes. It makes them more comfortable. The second thing you want to do is ask open-ended question. So instead of asking a yes or no question during the interview, try asking things like, can you tell me about that experience? Or what was it like when you encountered that person? So, like this encourages interviews to share more and dive deeper into the experiences. You don't want a yes or no questions. You want very open-ended questions to allow them to ramble for as long as they can about that particular topic that you're talking about. Because sometimes the gems of the beautiful part that you end up using wasn't what you had planned and scheduled in the questionnaire that you were going to ask the subject. So allow them to ramble. Allow them to go on for hours because sometimes those are the best parts that you end up needing. The next thing is give them space. Sometimes the best response can come after a pause. I know normally when you have the conversation with a person, when there's a pause, you want to fill that in with a question, with a conversation. You're not having a conversation with them. You are shooting a documentary. Now, you allow the interviewers to think, breathe, and truly reflect on their answers. Don't rush them because authenticity often comes from like the most unhurried moments. So, when you ask a question, give it time. Once they're done with answering the question, still give them time because you don't know what they're going to say next. Next is keeping it conversational. Aim for a natural dialogue when you guys are and when you're having the Q&A. Don't make it feel like an interview, like a job interview. This helps the subject feels more comfortable and keeps the conversation flowing, which in turn makes the interview more engaging and for the audience. Question number 6 that is commonly asked is how do I handle unexpected challenges while filming? Now, listen, filming, especially a documentary setting, is unpredictable. Things rarely go as planned, and that's okay. But here's a few strategies of handling unexpected challenges. Plan to be flexible. Now, always have backup plan, like whether it's extra batteries, alternative location, or even additional interview subjects. Being prepared for the unexpected can save you a lot of stress. I can't tell you how many sometimes we've even had to change the story direction based on what happened on what somebody said, or an interviewer not showing up and we had to use another subject. Things like this happen. You have to be able to adapt to the moment. Sometimes the best footage can come from really literally what you didn't plan at all. If a situation changes or a new angle presents itself, be ready to pivot and incorporate it into your story. The flexibility can add an element of authenticity to your film. Now, keep a positive attitude. Challenges are part of the journey. Embrace them as opportunities to learn and grow. Often, overcoming these obstacles can lead to creative solutions and unexpected storytelling moments. So keep that in mind while you're doing that. So, question 7 is how do I edit a documentary for emotional impact? Now, editing is where your documentary truly comes to life. It's where you shape the narrative and decide what the final emotional journey will be for your audience. So here's how you get it right. So first is you select your best footage. Now, can cap not every shot you capture will make it into the final cut. Now, you choose generally the best clips from your story, that would enhance the mood or reveal something new about the subject, right? Then you use music and pacing strategically. Now, music is a powerful tool. A soft, gentle music can really accentuate an intimate moment, while a more energetic tune can really heighten tension or excitement. You know, Pacing is equally important. Slow it down for emotional depth, and then speed it back up during moments of action to keep your audience on the edge of their seats. Let your interviews guide the narrative. Sometimes the most compelling parts of your documentary are found in the unscripted moments of conversation. Trust your interview footage to lead the story. Like, don't be afraid to let a genuine emotion and unsaid words take center stage. Sometimes saying nothing in that shot is what is the most impactful and powerful thing you could do for that segment. So think about that. Now, question 8. Do I need permission to use footage and music? Now, this is a super important question. Very, very important question, especially as you begin sourcing materials for the film. The short answer is yes, you do need permission. Footage, like whether you're using archival footage or clips from other creators, it is essential to obtain the rights. This not only protects you legally, but it also shows respect for the creators whose work you included. Then, if you're talking about licensed music needs proper clearance. If you can't get permission, consider royalty-free alternatives or explore Creative Commons options, where you can legally use music without stepping into copyright issues. YouTube has a lot of those, and feel free to use that. People in your film. Now, here's what you have to do. You have to always get signed release forms from anyone who's appearing in your documentary. This is crucial for protecting you and the subject down the line, because you don't want a scenario where somebody comes back and sues you for something. But whereas if you had the signed release form to use their image for your film, would save you a lot of headache. Now, question number 9 is, what is the best way to fund a documentary? Now, funding a documentary can seem really daunting, but there are several avenues you can explore. The number one avenue is grants. Like there's many film organizations and cultural funds, offer grants specifically for documentaries, like research opportunities. So you have to research opportunities that align with your topic and don't hesitate to apply, honestly. Crowdfunding, like platforms like Kickstarter, those are actually fantastic ways for rallying the community support. When you share your passion and vision, you might be surprised at how many people are willing to help finance your project. Next is sponsorship. Look for brands or organizations that align with your documentary message. Sponsorship can provide not only funding, but also valuable networking and distribution opportunities later down the line. And the last option is always self-funding, which is always great too as well. But that's something you think about. If the project is truly a passion project, like you can consider starting something very small. And sometimes investing your own time and money can be the most rewarding, and it shows potential backers that you're really dedicated to this project. Now, question 10 will be, how do I distribute my documentary once it's finished? Because that's a big question. After pouring your heart into creating a documentary, and next thing you want people to see this. There are several options for distribution. The first one is film festivals. We've submitted our films to a lot of film festivals. Do they come with a little bit of a fee? Yes, they do. But premiering a documentary at the festival are like Sundance, Hot Docs, and all this thing can open doors to, critically acclaim and wider exposure. Film festivals are great for networking, like with industry professionals, and finding potential distributors, distributors or distribution deals. Next is streaming platform. You want to go YouTube, Vimeo, Amazon Prime. We've uploaded a couple of videos to that too as well. And if you're lucky enough to get into acceptable space, those are powerful channels for reaching a global audience. Online streaming allows your film to be accessible like worldwide. So do not think about just making a film for just your location or where you're at. Think about how it could be valuable to other, places in the country or outside the country. So don't just keep yourself local. Think internationally too as well. Next is broadcast TV. Local networks. For example, TELUS. That's a great opportunity. Like similar to what I'm doing currently with TELUS. There's several channels. That look for documentaries or podcasts or whatever creative mediums you're trying to work on. That resonate with the audience. And this route can also lead to like regional or national recognition. Community screening. So now, don't underestimate the power of grassroots efforts. Now, hosting screenings at college, community centers, libraries, advocacy groups not only brings your film directly to those who care about the message, but also sparks conversation and community action. We're currently working on a documentary about the Caribbeans in the Paris, and what our projection to do is definitely utilizing community screening for the premieres of this show. And why we're doing this is because we're connecting with the people. We're connecting with the people in the community. We're actually connecting to people who are going to be the ones telling the stories, the friends, the families. And honestly, when we did this for a previous documentary we shot, which is Afrobeat in the Prairies, we got such a huge support from the community. It was a packed out theater that came to watch our documentary. And we had panels, we had this, we had conversations. You should have seen the beautiful conversation that we had that was sparked from the documentary that we created, Afrobeats in Paris. And that's something that I want to recommend to everybody who's creating a documentary. Even if you are going to submit films to like the festivals, the streaming platforms, try doing the grassroots effort. Like, try creating screenings in your local area. You'll be shocked and amazed to find out how many people want to support you and really coming outside to you, like who are really going to come out to support you, and really you don't know what doors can open up from doing just that. So just to wrap things up, let's quickly just recap everything that we covered right now. First is you have to choosing your topic. Focus on passion, relevance, and access. The story you choose should resonate both with you and your audience. Documentaries versus other videos. Remember, documentaries bring out authenticity and raw truth to the screen. That's what it is. And structuring your film, there's a three-act structure that keeps your narrative engaging and dynamic. That's typically what everybody uses for documentary storytelling, because the documentary is still the same thing as storytelling. Storytelling, the standard ways to do this that everybody typically follows, it's a three-act structure. Not saying that's the only one, but it's one of the staple that you can follow to generate a great story. The big people, the big people in the industry use this, so you might as well emulate that too as well. The essential equipment. Remember, start with what you have. Great storytelling is key. And remember, audio is one of the most important thing you should focus on. Visuals are great, but you can get away with bad visuals if your audio is fantastic. Keep that in mind. Conduct interviews, build trust, ask open-ended questions. Remember, let the natural conversation flow. Don't be rigid. It's not a job interview, it's a documentary. So allow room for for exploring different narratives or different ways in which the conversation ends up going. Handling challenges. Now, listen, embrace flexibility and be prepared for the unexpected. You are shooting a documentary, not a movie. Movies are very scripted and very, very rigid. There's rarely rooms for flexibility, but a documentary, flexibility is great because sometimes the unexpected moments create some of the best shots, the best sound bites that you can use for the trailers or in the documentary, the most emotional moments in documentary. If someone's going down the emotional, allow it to go. Don't feel awkward. Don't feel awkward by breaks in between. Allow the person or the subject to flush out their thoughts. And then in the editing is where you trim out the things that you find unnecessary or shape the narrative. Editing, for impact, you want to use footage that is really, really good. You want to use music that matches the right tone. You want to make sure that the pacing, is also great. So if you want to create a really emotional journey, those are the things you have to think about. Now, your copyright and permission, always secure the proper permission for footage. Music, interviews, and the proper footage, the musics, the interviews of the subjects, make sure you're getting their own permission to use them in the documentary. Funding your documentary, like make sure there's different ways in which you can raise funds. Like, you can explore the grants option side of things, crowdfunding, sponsorships, or you can fund it yourself. Those are different ways in which you could do that. And remember, finding all you have to do is tailor what the documentary is about, that it matches with what either the people who are giving you grants want or the crowdfunding want. So make sure that you guys are aligned in terms of your vision and the impact you guys are trying to have in the community and your reason for creating this story or sharing the story, the untold stories. Distribution, find the right platform that fits you. Sometimes it's just about uploading to streaming services, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. use those platforms. If it's something you want, you want to go to film festivals, right? You can do that and submit them to film festivals or TVs or communities. Um, so documentary filmmaking is like a journey. It's just creativity, and sometimes it's chaotic, but it's also very incredibly rewarding because you are sharing stories that you feel the world needs to see, or you're trying to change the perspective of the world. You know, it each concept from distribution is also an opportunity to share a unique perspective to the world, honestly. So I hope you found this very insightful and helpful. If you had any more questions, feel free to go to my website at fahadsuleiman.com. And thank you very much for watching. I hope this is beneficial. Cheers.